Why dark chosen ones suffer the most, and it's a huge gift others don't have. There's a secret that no one tells you when you begin your spiritual journey, especially if you're one of the dark chosen ones. And it's this: the deeper your calling, the darker your path. The more powerful your purpose, the more pain you will walk through to reach it. And if you're here, listening to this, then I know something about you already. You've suffered in ways that can't be explained or justified by logic. You've lived through things that, on the surface, seem unfair, senseless, brutal even. But what if I told you that your suffering wasn't just trauma? What if I told you it was a sacred design, a coded awakening, a divine forge meant to shape you into something the world has almost forgotten how to recognize, a weapon of light forged in the darkness? Dark chosen ones don't come into this world with ease. We don't slide into soft environments, nurturing families, or safe systems. More often than not, we're born into chaos, into broken homes, into trauma lines, into ancestral pain that spans generations. We are seeded in dysfunction, planted in soil that seems poisoned. Why? Because we are the antidote. We are the ones sent not to escape the darkness, but to transform it. We carry within us the capacity to absorb, transmute, and reprogram the frequency of pain, not just for ourselves, but for the collective. That's why it hurts so much. That's why it feels unbearable some days. Because we are doing multidimensional work without a manual, without applause, and often without even understanding what we're really doing.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
I want you to think back to when you first started to realize you were different. Not better, not worse, just other. Maybe it was the way you could feel things no one else seemed to notice. Maybe it was the way you could walk into a room and instantly sense the tension, the unspoken, the energy lingering in the corners. Or maybe it was the way people reacted to you, projecting, rejecting, fearing, or even worshipping you. There's something about the dark chosen ones that unsettles others. Because we carry a frequency that disrupts illusions. Our eyes see through masks. Our bodies hold ancient codes. And even when we're silent, our presence speaks. But that level of perception comes at a cost. You don't just see the beauty, you see the brokenness. You don't just feel joy, you feel the weight of collective grief. And here's where it gets even deeper. You're not just experiencing your own suffering. You are carrying the unresolved energy of your bloodline, your past lives, and the unconscious shadow of society itself. That's why the pain feels so disproportionate. That's why you've probably asked yourself more than once, why me? Why does it feel like I'm drowning in a storm nobody else can even see? The truth is, being a dark chosen one means you weren't sent here to live a normal life. You weren't sent here to find comfort. You were sent here to awaken the parts of reality that everyone else is still pretending doesn't exist. You were sent here to break curses, end patterns, and rip veils off illusions, whether they're in your family, your community, or the world at large. And that work, that soul-level warfare, it's not for the faint of heart. It's for the warriors who remember who they are even when the world tells them they're broken. But here's the huge gift no one tells you about. Through your suffering, you become immensely powerful. Not in the superficial, egoic sense. Not through domination or escape, but through embodiment, through presence, and through the ability to walk into a space and carry such grounded truth that everything false begins to tremble. That's the power of the dark chosen ones. We don't just speak light, we embody it in the darkest places. We don't just seek peace, we become it in the middle of chaos. But to get there, we have to face our own shadows first. And not just face them, we have to befriend them. That's where the suffering becomes alchemy. Because in the depths of your pain, you find your weapons. In the betrayal, you find discernment. In the abuse, you find sovereignty. In the abandonment, you find self-love that doesn't depend on anyone else's presence or approval. And these aren't fluffy spiritual concepts. These are embodied truths that change your DNA, your frequency, your entire life. You become the kind of person who can walk through fire and not only survive but come out carrying sparks to light the way for others. Now, let me ask you something that might hit deep. What if your suffering wasn't a mistake, but a map? What if every breakdown was a breadcrumb leading you back to the truth of who you are? What if the pain didn't come to destroy you, but to reveal you? Because once you start seeing your wounds as codes, once you stop trying to hide them and start listening to them, everything changes. The shame dissolves. The guilt lifts. The confusion begins to clear. And in its place, you find clarity. You find purpose. You find a strength that isn't loud or boastful, but undeniable. That's when you stop being a victim of your past and become the author of your future. That's when you realize you weren't just chosen, you chose this. On a soul level, you said yes. You said, send me into the shadows, and I'll remember the light. And you did. The secret power of shadow alchemy, turning pain into forces of creation. There is a hidden art, ancient and misunderstood, that only a few ever truly master. But it's not taught in schools, not written in most books, and rarely spoken about in the open. But it is the very foundation of the dark chosen one's journey. It's what separates those who are consumed by the darkness from those who command it. It's called shadow alchemy, and it is the sacred ability to take the raw, chaotic energy of suffering and transmute it into power, into peace, into purpose. This isn't just spiritual poetry, it's real, energetic science. And if you're still listening, it means it's a power that's meant for you to wield. Most of the world runs from pain. They numb it, avoid it, bury it beneath distractions and false identities. But not us, not the dark ones. We were born with an innate pull toward the shadow, toward the hidden, the taboo, the parts of reality that others pretend don't exist. And for good reason, because that's where the gold is buried. That's where the real transformation happens. Shadow alchemy begins the moment you stop asking, why me? And start asking, what is this teaching me? And that single shift in consciousness opens a door most never find in their lifetimes. Behind it lies the truth that your greatest suffering holds the blueprint to your greatest becoming. Think about this. Every time you've been broken, torn apart by loss, rejection, betrayal, or despair, something in you was also being revealed, stripped, refined. The illusions fell away. The masks burned. And what was left? The core. The raw essence of who you really are. That's not a coincidence. That's the process. In alchemy, the base metal must be put through fire to become gold. And you are no different. The pain wasn't punishment, it was purification. But alchemy isn't passive. It requires you to engage with your shadow, not as an enemy, but as a teacher. It means sitting with the parts of yourself you've been taught to hate, the jealousy, the rage, the fear, the shame, and asking them why they're there. What are they protecting? What are they revealing? These emotions, these dark fragments of psyche, are not flaws. They are messengers. They are fragments of your soul carrying vital information. And when you listen, truly listen, you begin to unlock insights that no lightning path could ever offer. Here's something most spiritual teachings won't tell you. Not all light is love, and not all darkness is evil. In fact, some of the deepest healing occurs in the pitch-black silence of your own inner cave, when no one is watching and nothing is performing. The dark chosen ones are not here to float in the ether, detached from the human experience. We are here to embody the full spectrum, to walk with shadow and light in both hands, to show the world that wholeness isn't about perfection, it's about integration. So how do you practice shadow alchemy in real life? Start by tracking your triggers. Every time something or someone evokes a strong emotional reaction, anger, defensiveness, sadness, don't run from it. Sit with it. Ask yourself, what part of me feels unseen right now? What unhealed wound is being poked? What truth am I afraid to face? This level of self-inquiry is not comfortable, but it's necessary. Because the more you understand your own darkness, the less power it has over you. And when it no longer controls you, you begin to use it not to harm, but to create. Creation is the ultimate act of alchemy. When we channel our pain into something beautiful, art, music, movement, service, we are literally turning darkness into light. Not by denying the pain, but by honoring it, by giving it form, a voice, a purpose. That's why some of the most powerful creators in history were born from torment. They weren't broken, they were activated. Their scars became ink. Their tears became rhythm. Their agony became stories that moved mountains. You have that same ability. You've always had it. Your suffering didn't come to silence you, it came to give you a language that only the initiated can speak, being a language that pierces through illusions and awakens others who are still trapped in their own shadows. You are not just healing for yourself. You are healing for generations past, present, and future. Every time you choose to face the darkness instead of running from it, you're breaking chains that have bound your lineage for centuries. That is holy work. That is sacred rebellion. But it requires one thing above all: self-honesty. You cannot alchemize what you're still pretending doesn't exist. You must be willing to see yourself fully, not just the parts that are love and light, but the parts that still ache, still hunger, still burn with unprocessed emotion. You must step into your own underworld with courage and curiosity, knowing that what lives there is not your enemy, it is your initiation. So ask yourself now, deeply and without flinching, what have I been unwilling to face within myself? What pain have I tried to bury that is actually holding the key to my next level of power? Because the moment you answer that with truth, the alchemy begins. And once it starts, nothing can stop it. You are not here to be saved. You are here to become the force that saves others by example, by energy, by embodiment. But your darkness is not a flaw. It is your forge. And from it, you will rise not just healed, but reborn. Embodied chaos, why the dark chosen ones are here to break and rebuild reality. There are souls born not to fix the system, but to fracture it. Not to maintain order, but to awaken truth through disruption. Not all chosen ones come cloaked in robes of peace and passive wisdom. Some come wrapped in storms. Some arrive with fire in their eyes and chaos in their bones. These are the dark chosen ones. And unlike others, our presence doesn't calm the room, it shatters the illusions that keep it quiet. We aren't here to be accepted. We are here to be remembered, to remind the world of what it buried long ago, that sometimes the most sacred act is to break what no longer serves. And we do this not because we hate the world, but because we love it enough not to let it stay asleep. If you've ever felt like your very existence creates friction, like you enter spaces and things start to shift, people get uncomfortable, truths surface without you even speaking, it's not your imagination. You are an embodied disruptor. You carry codes that agitate stagnation. You hold frequencies that expose what's fake. And whether you realize it or not, you were sent into this reality to collapse outdated systems, to tear down spiritual facades, and to break the collective trance of comfort and conformity. That's why your life has felt so volatile, so intense, so unpredictable. You are not malfunctioning. You are functioning exactly as designed, as a divine agent of chaos that clears the way for new creation. But chaos, when unconscious, becomes destruction. That's why our path is so dangerous. We walk with nuclear energy in our hands. We can either burn the world down or set it free. That's why we suffer more. That's why our initiations are relentless. Because we must be forged into beings who can carry this power without misusing it. Every betrayal you endured, every failure that humbled you, every dark night that stripped your ego bare, it was all part of the refinement. You were being trained to hold the storm without becoming the storm. You were being prepared to stand in the middle of collapse and remember your role, not as a victim, not as a savior, but as an architect of the new. And this reconstruction doesn't begin by changing governments or rewriting laws. It begins inside of you. Your mind is a microcosm of the collective. Your beliefs are blueprints. Your emotions are generators. When you dissolve a limiting belief within yourself, you weaken it in the field of the entire human grid. When you heal an old wound, you shift the frequency of everyone still carrying that same pain unconsciously. That's why inner work is not just personal, it's planetary. And for dark chosen ones, it's even more amplified. We were encoded with the capacity to hold and move energy at massive scales. That's why reality often reacts to us with such intensity. That's why our lives feel like constant initiations. Because we are reshaping the collective template, one choice at a time. But with great influence comes great responsibility. You must become deeply discerning with your energy. The world will try to provoke you, distract you, drain you, idolize you, and vilify you all in the same breath. That's the paradox of the dark chosen one. You are both feared and needed, rejected and sought after. You must learn to move beyond the need for external validation. You must become sovereign in your power, not to isolate, but to lead from an unshakable center. Because when you are centered, your chaos becomes sacred. It becomes creative force rather than reactive destruction. And here's the deeper truth. You are not here to fix a broken world. You are here to end the world that was built on lies and midwife the one that is aligned with truth. That's why you've never fully fit into any system, school, religion, politics, even mainstream spirituality. Because you're not meant to fit. You're meant to redefine. You're meant to disrupt even the spiritual echo chambers that preach love and light while bypassing the shadows that hold the real medicine. You're meant to speak the truth that others are too afraid to utter. And yes, it will cost you. It will cost you comfort, popularity, maybe even relationships. But in return, you gain something far greater, freedom, inner freedom, soul freedom. The kind of freedom that cannot be taken by any external force because it's rooted in your being. Ask yourself this: what am I still trying to preserve that is actually meant to fall? What am I still protecting that my soul came here to dismantle? Because many of us unconsciously cling to remnants of the old world, even as we try to build the new. We fear losing control, losing identity, losing safety. But true rebirth requires a full death of the false self. You cannot rebuild reality while still trying to live by its old rules. You must become the embodiment of the new paradigm before it can manifest around you. But this is the deeper layer of the dark chosen one's mission. We are not just here to awaken ourselves. We are here to become walking activations that ripple through consciousness. Every action we take, every truth we speak, becomes a signal to others who are still asleep. Not a demand, but an invitation to remember, to rise, to reclaim their own chaos and turn it into creation. Your life is not random. Your path is not a mistake. Every breakdown, every rejection, every intensity has been a message. You are not here to be normal. You are here to be revolutionary. You are the embodied chaos that births evolution. And when you finally stop resisting that, when you embrace the full spectrum of your power, you become unstoppable, not because you control others, but because you liberate yourself. You were never meant to fit in. You were born to recode the matrix. There's a deep ache that lives in the hearts of dark chosen ones, and it often whispers the same question over and over: why don't I belong? From childhood we feel it. That sense of not quite fitting, of being too much or too different. We walk through the world like strangers in a land that was never built for us. And for a long time, we assume something's wrong with us. We twist ourselves into shapes that don't match our soul. We wear masks, shrink our light, soften our fire just to be accepted, just to feel safe. But the truth is, we were never meant to belong to this version of the world. Because we didn't come here to fit in. We came here to recode the matrix. The very systems we were born into, societal, familial, cultural, were programmed with fear, conformity, and control. They were designed to keep people asleep, to reward obedience, to punish authenticity. And so, of course, we clashed with them. Or, of course, we felt like glitches. But what if the glitch is the key? What if the very reason you've always felt like you don't belong is because your energy is incompatible with the illusion? What if your frequency is coded to disrupt the matrix, not to be absorbed by it? That's why your suffering has felt so intense. Because every lie you've inherited about who you're supposed to be, how you're supposed to act, what you're supposed to want had to be broken down inside of you. The pain was the purge. The disillusionment was the detox. You weren't just waking up, you were rewriting the code. Every time you questioned authority, challenged norms, or refused to betray your truth, you were doing what you came here to do: reprogram reality from the inside out. But this path isn't glamorous, it's lonely. It's raw. It demands that you let go of needing approval, that you release any attachment to being understood. Because the matrix doesn't reward those who disrupt it, but it gaslights them, rejects them, tries to convince them they're crazy, broken, dangerous. But you've seen through it now. You know better. You've felt the falseness in your bones. You've tasted the emptiness of a life lived in pretending. And once you've seen the truth, you can't unsee it. You are a living frequency disruptor. Your presence alone challenges the program. You don't even have to speak, your vibration speaks for you. And this is why protecting your energy is no longer optional. You must learn to discern what feeds your spirit and what depletes it. You must get ruthless about your alignment, not from ego, but from purpose, because the mission is too important. You didn't come here just to survive. You came here to shift timelines. So what does that look like in real life? It means choosing authenticity over acceptance. It means creating your own path instead of walking one-handed to you. It means building new systems, new ways of living, loving, leading that reflect truth instead of fear. And it means understanding that every step you take in sovereignty sends out ripples through the collective field. You are not just changing your life. You are changing the blueprint for others to follow. Ask yourself now, honestly, and without hesitation, where am I still pretending to be someone I'm not just to be safe? What truth have I been suppressing because I feared it would make me unlovable? And what if letting that truth rise is exactly what unlocks the next level of your mission? The matrix doesn't fall all at once. It crumbles through a million awakenings, through every soul that remembers who they really are and refuses to play the old game. And you, dear listener, are one of those souls. You don't need permission. You don't need a title. You just need to become what you already are. You were never here to blend in. You were born to stand out, to stand up, to stand true. And every time you do, you recode the world. Now go live like it.